day 4, no? Day 3.
Good evening, everybody.
Hey, Al.
It is
Al.
Middle of the week. I hung out and watched a lot of drag last night with Tony. Chris Caputo, what did you think about Chris Caputo?
He looked really pretty.
He was.
He just couldn't dance.
He was not.
He couldn't dance.
He was a little mechanical.
A little mechanical.
Yeah, but
well rehearsed.
You know, I'm going to show quite a good video I have on it. But I challenge almost any city commissioner in Miami-Dade, Broward, or Palm Beach County to match Chris Caputo.
They won't. Especially not in Miami-Dade.
Yeah.
That guy is so cute.
Totally adorable.
The mustache guy's amazing.
Yeah, let's keep telling ourselves that. Well, welcome to Queer News Tonight, the world's first and only LGBTQ plus daily evening news. It's time to queer up the news, and it's 8 p.m. Wednesday, December 1st, 2021, and we are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. So many of your important stories we are going to tell this evening on Queer News Tonight.
This is the world's first live daily LGBTQ evening news show, literally out of the closet and into the headlines on Queer News Tonight with Al Ferguson.
Thank you for joining Queer News Tonight. This is the world's first and only unedited live LGBTQ plus evening news show. Whatever happens, you will see it. Queer News Tonight is supported by viewers like you. We are part of the partnership between Happening Out Television Network and Hotspots Magazine. Hotspots is celebrating 36 years of the LGBTQ plus experience. We bring you the best of LGBTQ plus news, entertainment, and support of our community.
I'm your anchor at Queer News Tonight, Al Ferguson. Let's begin by welcoming Tony Lima. He is CEO of SunServe here in Fort Lauderdale and Wilton Manors. He is a longtime South Florida LGBTQ plus activist and political advocate, as well as the anchor of the world's first monthly transgender talk show called Translation. Good evening, Tony.
Good evening, Al. It's so much fun to be here with you week after week. Tonight, let's not forget that it's World AIDS Day. Hopefully you've attended a celebration either in the morning or in the evening, but join us wherever you are in order to observe this very important day. Let's now welcome John Hayden, a reporter for South Florida Gay News, and I think that's my phone and I apologize, covering politics, arts, and philanthropic organizations. John has been a journalist for 26 years, much of it covering the stupidity and scandals of Hollywood. He's interviewed nearly every big name in TV, movies, music, and considers the time he spent with Cher as the best 4 minutes of his life. Good evening, John.
Thank you so much. My phone is in airplane mode, by the way. Let's welcome anchor Dan Rios. He is the director of LGBTQ plus marketing for Greater Miami Convention and Visitors Bureau, the official destination marketing organization for Greater Miami and Miami Beach, joining their marketing and tourism division in 2002, which is amazing because I don't think Miami was even in existence back then. Dan is considered one of America's top experts on LGBTQ plus travel and tourism. Welcome, Dan.
Thank you. So great to be here. Let's welcome Maxx Fenning from Prism Florida Incorporated. At just 17, Maxx founded this amazing nonprofit organization that works to expand access to LGBTQ plus inclusive education and sexual health resources for LGBTQ plus youth in South Florida. Now at 19, Maxx is a senior at the University of Florida and serves as Prism's president. Good evening, Maxx.
Thank you, Dan. We are the reporters for Queer News. Stop laughing, Tony. We are the reporters for Queer News Tonight, and this evening we begin with the queer headlines. The LGBTQ plus community in South Florida and across America is diverse. Our community across the world is vast, and here are the bullet points of the Queer News for today, Wednesday, December 1st.
I heard you say dad. Good evening, Dad. I'm like, that makes sense.
That's funny because I heard granddad. Let's begin by queering up the USA. President Biden remembers LGBTQ survivors for World AIDS Day. On Tuesday, President Biden issued a proclamation for World AIDS Day honoring the survivors of HIV and AIDS, including the LGBTQ+ community. In the statement, he said, quote, "The COVID-19 pandemic has added to the challenges of our heroic healthcare and frontline workers and what they face. Yet they continue to deliver essential HIV prevention services and provide vital care and treatment to people living with HIV. The pandemic has also interrupted HIV research and highlighted the work that still remains to achieve equitable access to HIV prevention, care, and treatment in every community, particularly for communities of color, adolescent girls, young women, and the LGBTQI+ community," end quote. The inclusion of LGBTQ people in a statement recognizing World AIDS Day stands in stark contrast to statements that were made by President Trump, who consistently declined to mention the LGBTQ community in any of those statements. The consistent omissions took place even though top health officials under the Trump administration started the Ending of the HIV Epidemic initiative, which seeks to beat HIV/AIDS by 2030. Last year, White House Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany asked by the Washington Blade why the LGBTQ community was missing from the 2020 statement. She responded with a false statement that Trump was the first to observe World AIDS Day by adorning the White House with a large red AIDS ribbon. In fact, the practice began under President George W. Bush and then continued through the Obama and Trump administrations. This afternoon, President Biden spoke to the White House in honor of World AIDS Day. Watch this.
We still have a difficult road ahead of us. We can't kid ourselves, particularly addressing the disparities we see both domestically and globally, including the impact of high transmission rates among adolescent girls and young women. And today, as we look back in the past 40 years, where there's been so much pain and suffering, it's a testament to all the hard work represented in this room and around the world, that we're gathered today with hope in our hearts and for the future that's within our grasp. We can do this. We can do this. We can eliminate HIV transmission. We can get the epidemic under control here in the United States and in countries around the world. We have the scientific understanding, we have the treatments, and we have the tools we need. We're going to engage with people with lived experience with HIV and ensure that our efforts are appropriate and effective and centered around the needs of the HIV community, not us, centered around the needs of the community. And folks, together, we're going to save lives. I can imagine no higher calling to which we could be dedicated than our commitment to save lives. And this is the one area where we can get a lot more done quickly.
Amazing.
Yeah.
You know, I think that after the past 4 years and everything that we've experienced with the previous administration, really being able to see this is restores a little bit of faith. PRISM, it's not only is it World AIDS Day, it's also the start of AIDS Awareness Month, December AIDS Awareness Month, and PRISM is putting together a whole video campaign giving information about AIDS and HIV. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's a super important issue that affects our community really deeply, and the fact that it's being recognized. Is,
we are in our 5th decade of knowing about the HIV/AIDS virus. I mean, you think about it, goes back 40 years. We're at the start of our 5th decade. And to know where we're going, we have to know where we come from. I talked with Dr. Raquel Lopes at the World AIDS Museum, which is right here in Fort Lauderdale. And she, the displays are amazing, and she graciously gave me a guided tour. And one of the things that was striking is that one of the reasons we've been able to respond so rapidly to the COVID crisis is because that is built on the research techniques and the drug approval rate that was developed during the 80s and 90s. So when we talk about COVID, we're actually and the results we've been able to get, we're also looking at that. So it means something, and I would encourage everybody to go there and look at it, touch, and just feel the history so that we can move progressively forward.
You know, I find all of this incredibly refreshing to have these kind of receptions at the White House again. I was very fortunate to attend 3 of the Pride receptions at the White House under Obama, which were spectacular because you got to see all types of people, actors from Hollywood, from famous TV shows, musicians, people from major cultural institutions, everyone together really being able to revel in being LGBTQ. What's really special about today is that they were very intentional about inviting a series of trans women, leaders from all around across the country, that also included Ariana Lind from Ariana Center. I think we have a photo to show, and she's here pictured with Admiral Rachel Levine. So what an important note, right? Like, we're gonna do all of this, and we're gonna make sure that trans women of color who are leaders throughout the entire country are here represented as well.
Yeah. It's a beautiful moment that I was lucky enough to host Ariana Center's 6th anniversary event last week. Did a 4-part series with Admiral Levine the week before that. The intersection of World AIDS Day today. It's very important. And, you know, it would be so easy for me to go on to a bash of Donald Trump. The one thing that I will say, of which I'm not going to go on a bash of Donald Trump, is what we watched today and how the White House has responded, even to the point that you made of the invitation of Ariana and representation for Ariana Center. This is what presidents do. They don't scream, they don't shout, they don't call names. They hold people up and they lift America up. And that's what has happened today. And it's refreshing, and it's nice to see, again, some normalcy return to our White House.
Absolutely. You know,
right.
His words are so comforting. And for someone like me that, you know, grew up or came out in the age where you were talking about HIV and AIDS, and it actually created a jolt, to be here 4 decades later and hear these words and find comfort is a really beautiful thing.
Yeah.
So now we queer up gay culture. Sealed with a kiss as Barbershop tests straight men reactions when kissed by Barber. Watch this.
Smooches for the boys' reactions.
That was a good one. You killed that too, didn't you? You killed me. It's like,
You know, I hope for this every time I go get a haircut or a beard trim, and it never, ever happens. So in July of this year, an Australian barber with the TikTok handle #Simon_K decided to prank his clients and film it. After he finished their haircuts, he leaned in and planted a kiss on their foreheads. The reactions are adorable and joyful as the guys giggle and laugh, especially once they are shown the camera. This has started a viral trend on social media, even being featured recently on the Today Show. It's a great example of the joy of showing love and affection, no matter your sexuality.
I recently put a skit on TikTok where it's like a love affair between a barber and their client. It's just funny that the timing of it all.
I haven't been in a barbershop in a minute.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
But okay, Debbie Downer moment here. I don't like this story.
Really?
Whatsoever.
Why?
What if a woman decided to test gays and reached in and just started kissing them? What if straight men decided to start kissing lesbians? I'm sorry, I think if this were any other situation, and we're going to talk about stereotypes coming up in a little bit, and I think this really plays well into it.
Yeah, you're right, Debbie Downer.
I think it's
No, I
important to
understand your
note
point.
consent. And I think that's something that I like to talk about a lot is consent and how important that is. You know, this is a cute video and all, but I think that is a conversation to be had. There's a stereotype of like predation in the LGBT community,
Absolutely.
and I feel like this, in a way, could be used to reinforce that.
For a moment, let's set all of that aside and say, let's just grant all of those observations and say, okay, we do see the points that are being made. What's interesting to me about this video, and there was one that was on the Today Show just this morning, doing the exact same thing in a barbershop in New Jersey, and the barber kissing the guys on the forehead. It's very clear the barber in the Today Show video of the New Jersey barbershop, they're inspired by this Australia TikTok video. It's very clear that the barber is not gay. It's very clear that all of the people in the chairs are not gay. The interesting thing that is going on here is you could quickly get to the toxic masculinity issue. So setting aside all of the points that we've made already, what's really interesting is potentially toxically masculine cis males don't overtly react negatively because they didn't feel the threat of it, and they don't feel the threat of it because they instantly laugh and giggle about it. They might be uncomfortable, but then they laugh and giggle about it. And that's what's interesting about this TikTok issue, is that when you can approach something in a positive way, the respondent will drop the walls and respond. And
I was going to say, drop what?
Yeah, right.
So yeah, the guys at Cuts on 89th and Biscayne, you can kiss me whenever you want.
Yeah.
Let's just do it. When I come in
Now
for a
that's
haircut,
completely
just do it.
different than the toxic.
It's not. They
masculinity
don't know I'm
that
gay.
we're
I'm just going to
talking
sit there and be kissed.
Oh, I think they know.
They don't know. Thank you, Max.
All right, up next, we queer up the world. Hungary will decide LGBTQ issues in a national referendum. Hungary's parliament has approved the government's plan to hold a national referendum on LGBTQ+ issues. The move is the latest step by the Hungarian authorities that critics say is intended to limit minority rights. The decision to call the referendum was approved with 129 votes in favor and none against. Opposition lawmakers abstained from voting on the resolution. The proposed referendum will include questions on sex education programs in schools and the availability of information on children on gender reassignment. Hungarian citizens will also be asked whether they support a ban on the publication of LGBT content that, quote, influences the development of underage children. And rights should never, ever be put to a vote.
Absolutely not. PRISM does a lot of work specifically with sex ed, sexual health resources, and making sure that that education is as accessible as possible, and and the risk of limiting that is a real one, and that's something that we see. We see here, and as affirming of a community as we like to think it is, we still see that here, and absolutely abroad. And that risk of those really important topics being taught by like parents who are not qualified to teach that.
Mm-hmm. A few years ago, Ireland approved marriage equality, 66% to 34%. A few years before that, Alabama banned gay marriage by about the same margin. I just have a feeling I know which way this vote's going to swing when it comes down to it.
But speaking of percentages, do we know how many abstained? Because they mentioned
the politicians. Yeah. It was pretty substantial. Yeah. Okay. There was a very significant number that abstained. One last thought on this, and not to be contrarian, but I'm really happy about it. And the reason I'm really happy about it is I completely agree. You don't put up civil rights up for a public vote. You err on the favor of civil rights. But in this instance, Hungary and Poland are pariahs in Europe. The value of this is to pull the Hungarian public onto the skewer with the politicians and the president of Hungary. What will happen here, I predict, is that perhaps a majority of Hungarians will vote anti-LGBT. And the European Union then will have the justification to respond directly against Hungary, because the president of Hungary takes himself off the hook of going, wait, this is what the people of Hungary wanted to do. And European Union will say, that is completely fine. And now we're going to withhold millions and millions and millions of dollars from you because this is what you want to do in your public election and vote. This is a trap. It's a complete trap, and Hungarians likely are going to walk into it. We'll be surprised if they don't, but if they do walk into it, oh, have you got a hurting coming from the European Unions. Good luck to you.
Next, we report on our partnership with Sunshine Cathedral, the world's largest queer church here in Fort Lauderdale. We're broadcasting from our permanent set here at Sunshine and supporting that partnership. Happening Out Television Network broadcasts the largest LGBTQ+ religious live broadcast in the world, as more than 30,000 watch every Sunday at 10:30 a.m. Eastern. Watch this.
My name is Lexi Goza of Lexi Goza State Farm Insurance in Midtown, Miami, Florida. I'm also a board member of the Aqua Foundation for Women and the chair of the Women's Empowerment Council for the Miami-Dade Gay and Lesbian Chamber. And Sunshine Cathedral is my queer church.
Well, up next, we are going to finish tonight's queer news headlines with a segment we call LGBTQ+ Flash News.
Let's get it flashing. LGBTQ Flash News. Representation on the biggest sporting day in the U.S. Super Bowl logo designer comes out as trans woman. Watch this.
Hi, Maureen here. I wanted to share some of the creative work we've been up to at the NFL. Currently, I'm one of the designers and illustrators on the upcoming Super Bowl 56 logo and identity. I've worked across the major leagues redesigning some of the best known brands and team logos across sport. But when I came to the NFL, I was actually Michael. I know, it's been quite a year. I arrived at a place in my life where I needed to face who my authentic self was to move forward. And what I'm pleased to share, and as daunting of a task it was, is I have the support and acceptance of my creative team and the league itself. That gives me the strength to come out as transgender at the NFL. We have an opportunity at the NFL to create change. As creatives, we dream up the impossible. So for me, life imitated art. I stand here rebranded as my authentic self. Just like when we designed the Super Bowl, we reflect that city's unique culture and attitude. The visual changes, but the soul is the same. I hope my story can be a shining light for others, especially on this Transgender Awareness Week. Thanks.
Maureen Raish, the lead designer of the logo for next year's Super Bowl, has come out as transgender woman. Raish shared her identity in a video posted to Twitter for the recent Transgender Awareness Week. Raish has been out to her family, friends, and colleagues for 7 months, she told Forbes. The pandemic-related lockdown actually was a boon to her transition, as the NFL let employees work half days, and she used one of them to have her first makeover. In a Forbes interview, she said, quote, "I was so right in a very special time for me," end quote. The logo for Super Bowl 56, to be held in February in Los Angeles, was a much more of a team project, but she felt it was important to show that a trans woman had a major role in saying, quote, "Contributing something of value to the Super Bowl as a brand for America to know that a trans woman created it, I think is a powerful thing," end quote. So as Americans sit down on February 13th to watch the biggest sporting event of our country, we are proud to know that the T in our community is being represented even then.
I don't know about that.
You go, girl. What an accomplishment. You know, I have a design background, and to have your work featured on the stage like that, phenomenal.
You know, over the summer, Carl Nassib of the Las Vegas Raiders came out. John Gruden has been fired, and it's just good to see that the biggest sport in America and the second biggest sport in the world is no longer tolerating intolerance, at least publicly.
Right, and I think that it's important that something that is seen as such a masculine endeavor, and just being gay is sort of seen like intrinsically tied to femininity when it really shouldn't be, and seeing like representation and something that is like also seen as so masculine is like super important. And I think that it's awesome that that's really being shown.
Well, Max, we're going to move on and talk about Chucky.
Sure. LGBTQ plus flash news headline. Syfy's gay Chucky series is a killer as it's renewed for a second season. No matter how many times you kill him, Chucky keeps on coming back. Fans and critics alike have both been loving the new Chucky series on Syfy and USA Network, so we're happy to see that the show will be returning for a second season. The show was created by a genius behind the original Child's Play franchise, Don Mancini. He made sure to include canonically gay characters this time around. As a gay horror fan himself, he always longed to see people like him in the movies he loves so much. So that's why he focused the new Chucky series on a 14-year-old gay student, Jake Wheeler, who finds a supernatural doll at a yard sale. Throughout the season, Jake has grown from a bullied and introverted boy to one who had his first kiss with another boy, his friend Devin. The 8-part first season came to a terrifying end last night, and, in classic Chucky fashion, just when you thought the show was dead, it comes back for more mayhem. The entire season is available to stream on Peacock as of today. Is this what Republicans think happen when boys play with dolls?
That was good.
Well, I haven't seen it, but I'm going home to watch some Peacock.
Chucky is the silliest. Wait.
What does that have to do with the show?
Right. Chucky is the silliest horror movie franchise ever in history. But I love the fact that it's a gay creator behind it, and I love that Chucky's friend enabler is gay, and it allows us to explore something very strange, even though Chucky is silly.
So there was Bride of Chucky. I want to see Chucky come out of the closet next and have a little Chucky boyfriend.
No, Chucky will never die. He's like herpes.
Really?
That was worse than my comment.
Well, we're gonna
wait till the next segment.
We're going to end tonight's show with kind of an in-depth exploration of what we've been talking a lot about this week, and that is queering up gay culture. We asked, does LGBTQ hide from gay stereotypes like voice, gestures, walk, and more? Despite, or perhaps because of hit shows like Glee, RuPaul's Drag Race, and Will and Grace, LGBTQ plus stereotypes have become more entrenched in media.
Your brain creates mental shortcuts as a way to help you rapidly respond to situations based on past experiences, thus leading to stereotypes. But these shortcuts are generalizations and are rarely accurate assessments of an individual or group. They're what's known as cognitive bias.
Once you establish these beliefs, it's difficult to change your way of thinking. This is because you'll unintentionally look for evidence that affirms your beliefs and discounts any evidence to the contrary. When left unchecked, stereotypes may lead to discriminatory behavior.
Stereotypes of LGBTQ plus individuals are often at the root of biases against our community. The very concept of a gay agenda is based on the stereotype of gay people wanting to convert straight people.
Other times, the LGBTQ plus community is stereotyped as a crowd that only cares about alcohol, drugs, and sex.
There are many examples of these stereotypes in media, and they very frequently cause harm to the community. Newsweek has compiled a list of some of the most common gay stereotypes in movies and television. Watch this.
Don't stomp your little last season Prada shoes at me, honey.
Is that your natural hair color?
Yeah.
It's gorgeous.
Thank you.
See, this is the color I want.
This is Damien. He's almost too gay to function.
Stand still. There's a spark in your hair.
Get it, get it. Hot stuff coming through.
Dad, why did you bring me to a gay steel mill?
I got you into those baskets. You were nothing but a housewife when I found you. I didn't mean that. I've always admired you. Being a housewife is the hardest job on the planet. You're never not at work. It's just, how did we get to this place?
What tone? That sarcastic, contemptuous tone that means you know everything because you're a man and I know nothing because I'm a woman.
You're not a woman.
Oh, you bastard.
You love me. You're not marrying me.
Tom, I don't love you.
No, I don't mean that as a threat.
To be honest, I'm a little relieved you're going.
What?
decision to make. A makeover.
I'm in. Makeovers are like crack to me. Rachel somehow manages to dress like a grandmother and a toddler at the same time.
Don't stomp your little last season Prada shoes at me, honey.
For last season. Gay men know designers. Straight men don't. Know what? He did leave a shared tape in the pool house one time.
You know, Reddit has quite a conversation going on this week about stereotypes and how society responds to them. And one of the examples that are really being focused on is television reporters, reporters in the field and behind the scenes. I know Jonathan has some experience with this. and the focus is at local stations, whether network affiliated or independents. There's lots of conversation about how you speak. And if you're gay, you have to modify how you speak because they don't want you to sound too gay. And that's what got us into this story. We are full in South Florida of gay reporters and on-air reporters at many stations here in South Florida. And I began to think, oh wait, most don't sound stereotypical gay. And it made me wonder, when I know them personally, did that mean that they've modified their communication style on air? What do we think about stereotypes, and are we running away from it?
I can speak real quickly to the news thing. I've worked with many gay and lesbian reporters across many, many different regions, and here in South Florida. And when we go out for drinks afterwards, we go out to dinner, they speak exactly as they do on air. I mean, you know, perhaps there's maybe a little bit more production when they're sitting here, but on the whole, they just talk like they talk. And so that's my comment on that.
Yeah. So that's not your experience.
That is not my experience whatsoever. Yeah.
So my comment is a very personal one, right? Because I think that sometimes we let, especially older folks like us, Max, not like Al, like me and John, I should say.
Not
our it's like a relic.
Right.
Our own internalized homophobia gets the best of us. Yes. And it's happened to me on this show. When I've watched something back from this show or it's happening out or translation, and I'm like, oh my God, I need to reel it in a little bit, right? Because I feel like I'm really effeminate sometimes. You know, it happened very recent. You just did that on purpose. Just like you were looking at me when you were setting this all up. I knew that was coming somehow. But it's true. You know, when I just recorded a promo for the Faye What show last week, and when our production team sent it to us, I had a hard time watching myself. Yeah. And I almost asked the production team if I could re-record it because I'm afraid of what may be perceived. And I'm super openly gay everywhere.
And gosh, there's thousands of people that would come in on that comment. So you think that that's internalized homophobia?
It absolutely is.
Outside of your circle,
it's both.
Your own pressure.
I think it's my own pressure, and I'm afraid of what the reactions may be.
Right.
Because I think a big part of my success as an LGBTQ professional has been being able to blend with the mainstream straight folks.
Well, I'm curious, being the activist that you are the executive director of SAVE, why isn't your response, I don't care what they think?
Well, what's funny is that I eventually get there, but it takes me a little bit. My internalized homophobia, my Cuban machismo gets the best of me. I think what's my dad gonna think when he sees me on air? You know, and that gets to me as well. Or even people that I date. Actually, I'm currently seeing someone that kind of made fun of me on one of the shows. He's like, oh, you're so butch. Don't say anything. You're so butch normally, right? Like you're on the show and you let loose. And I'm like, well, who cares? Exactly.
Yeah. You know, Dan, I'm curious. Working for Miami Convention and Visitors Bureau, it is more of a more corporate structure in terms of how tourism is promoted. Very important. Have you ever had any issues related to mannerisms or things being an out gay man? Is that something that you've ever?
Absolutely not.
Never.
Now, I do have the same feelings that Tony has. And I do think it has a lot to do with our machismo upbringing. I think I'm very hard on myself, listening to myself on tape or, watching myself. I'm always, scrutinizing my movements, scrutinizing my voice. But I do find some people, it's not just with gay people. I think a lot of people are coached out of sounding too black or sounding too Southern. And I think that eventually that becomes part of your speech.
Very interesting.
And what you said about code switching. That's like a thing. It's like a real thing. It's gay code switching.
Do you even consider stereotypes and concerns of how it washes over?
Oh, absolutely.
You do,
absolutely.
even at your age.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that presentation is so. And like I also sometimes when I watch myself back, I'm like, oh, especially when it's something that I can't craft. Like if I'm recording a video of myself, for example, and posting it on social media, I can record as many takes as I want. I can do whatever, and I can rehearse over and over and over again and play it back. Something like this, I can't do that, right? So like watching it afterwards, it's very like jarring in a way.
Well, we're doing these stories of exploring our gay culture, giving us an opportunity to talk about them and very serious subjects, but we're gay after all, which means we also like the fun and the humor and the satire of it. So let's also explore that. To counter these type of stereotypes, we've also compiled a list of the types of gays the media really should be focusing on. Get ready. Well, we'll start with gender-bending cross-dressers, like the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence. They were founded in 1979, and they have long been a voice for HIV awareness and community fundraising.
Or the evil transgender temptress, one of which I know very, very well. Straight women, beware, or your husband may fall for someone like my sister, Ariana Lind, who lifted herself out of the struggles of sex work and being an HIV-positive transgender woman to the creator of her own foundation to help the community, Ariana Center.
And then there are my favorites, the cutthroat business gays. They use their lonely, childless lives to steal jobs from the heterosexuals, and good for them. Like Tim Cook, the CEO of Apple. Since he lives a childless, barren life, he has started donating his fortune to charity and plans on having donated his entire $800 million by the time he dies. How is he not a billionaire? He's the CEO of Apple.
And then the gays who spend all their time traveling, then shoving the things they find in other countries in the faces of the straights. Like the Rainbow Railroad. They travel all over, and then they're finding even more gays and helping them move places where they can be even more gay, like Miami.
I was going to say, Jen, can you remind me what you do for a living? Oh, wait, never mind.
Then there are the LGBTQ plus youth, like yours truly, who refuse to conform to the culturally accepted standards of gender and sexuality. These punk kids think that just because they want to identify authentically as themselves, society should go along, please. And the worst part is there are many people that are.
And finally, the worst stereotypes of all. The LGBTQ plus media. Not only do their values fly in the face of real news stations like Fox News, but they continually try to make non-LGBTQ people aware of the so-called inequality and violence towards the LGBTQ community. It's all propaganda, I'm quite sure.
All of it.
Yes. What do we think about these stereotypes, the silliness of the stereotypes we face? Young, travel.
They're kind of based in truth.
That's the thing. That's the thing.
For a reason.
But I do think, for example, like the transgender temptress and that idea, that fear mongering, that like trans people and LGBT folk in general are again like predatory in a way, and I feel like that's such a harmful stereotype. Like,
I recoil. It's interesting. I recoil every time we make the joke. Sometimes we do it here at Queer News Tonight, but often in my social circles, making the joke about straight men. And straight men ultimately, last night we were at the event. What's the difference between a gay man and a straight man? 3 drinks. It's a funny joke, but it really isn't a funny joke.
Right.
Because straight men are straight men. there is fluidity, there is gender fluidity. I understand that, but each individual comes to that on their own. They shouldn't have to be forced into being pushed into that fluidity by uber gay guy.
Well, and again, where does it come from, right? In Latinx culture, there is such a thing as a bugarrón. I know you've heard this term in all your trips to Cuba, but a bugarrón is technically a straight man that has sex with gay men. And that's absolutely allowed. And I'm sure that in other Latin American countries, there's another name for it. But for Cuban people or the Caribbean folks in general, it's bugarrón. So that's a very real thing. I know several.
In the South, there's like a phenomenon. I read a research paper on it. It's called brosexual. It's like a lot of like in the deep South, men will have that sort of like straight identifying men will, you know.
It's either that or pigs and cows.
Right.
Ooh.
Isn't it
You're the one from Virginia. I was going to ask. I was going to ask.
All right. Well,
I worked a fundraiser up in Palm Beach County about a month ago, and as I was a photographer, and I was cleaning up my gear, and someone came up to me and was asking me something, and he goes, "So are you gay?" And I was like, "Yes, I am. I'm not ashamed. Whatever." And then he goes, "Oh, you don't look like it or act like it." And I just responded, "You should see me when I'm having sex."
I get that a lot.
Do you?
You should see you when you're having sex.
No.
The people should see me when I'm having sex.
I definitely don't. But
You don't get that. All right. Well, we're going to continue to explore gay culture issues that we want to give the opportunity to have discussion about it and put it in front of you for it to be thought-provoking for all of us.
So that's today's news for the LGBTQ plus community on the world's first and only daily LGBTQ plus evening news show. Is our community important to you?
Then help us by liking and subscribing. Ring the bell for updates and share this news with your friends and family.
Post this broadcast in the many groups you're a member of. Tonight's stories about our community deserve the attention of your family and friends.
Queer News Tonight is the only live LGBTQ plus digital television show in the world that is out of the closet and into the headlines. We need your support.
My favorite line tonight is, "Oh, Tony, they know." If our community is to grow, we must tell our stories and bring them to the attention of the broader world. This is the only place in the world that tells these type of LGBTQ plus stories in motion and sound. And that is the passion of the Happening Out Television Network and Queer News Tonight. I'm your anchor, Al Ferguson, and on behalf of these LGBTQ plus reporters, the anchors of Queer News Tonight, including Tony Lima, John Hayden, Maxx Fenning, and Dan Rios. We will see you daily at 8 p.m. Good night.
Good night.
Bye.
LGBTQ plus news is vital for our community and for the broader world as a whole. We have enough enemies at Fox News. Tucker, Sean, and Lara are loud. We need passionate allies. Happening Out Television Network, Queer News Tonight, and It's Happening Out are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. Our community needs your support. Like this broadcast and subscribe now to ensure the growth of the entire